I'm ready.
Hello, our amazing Facebook friends. Mark McDonald here. Back-to-back Facebook Lives. I did one yesterday, but today's even more exciting because I'm here with one of my dearest friends, one of the best nutritionists I know in the world, and it is part 5 of our Menopause and Your Metabolism series. And today we are dealing with the dreaded X factor. I wrote about it in Body Confidence. I talk about it every day, and it's something that surrounds us no matter what we want. Stress. So without further ado, I want to introduce you, disruptive nutrition creator, someone who's helping us end the dieting madness, Carrie Lipoli. Carrie, you ready for stress today?
Hi. Oh, I am all about stress today, Mark.
I love it. So Carrie, before we dive in, I'm going to share where everyone can follow, but let's give a little excitement about why stress matters so much. So I know that you have some stress moments going on now. And if you're just joining us, I'll share how you can watch the other 4 parts of the series in a moment. But Carrie had some stress hit her a couple of days ago. So Carrie, why don't you tell us why this Facebook Live right now and this training is so important?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, so it's so funny that we're doing stress right now. We've done, this is our 5th one. Who would have thought that the week that we're doing stress is the very week that 2 out of the 4 of my family members have been tested positive for COVID. And so literally 2 days before our second shot, my husband tests positive. 3 days before we're supposed to leave for Florida. My kids are both in sports and school activities. One of my daughters tested positive. And all of a sudden it was like, we weren't expecting this. Life came to a sudden halt. Anybody that's experienced this before, it's just like sudden. And we were like, oh my gosh, we thought we were free. Like we were clear, we were a year in. And so I'm just living this stressful time right now where our life kind of got turned upside down. I'm going to do a lot of things to be able to deal with it. And thank God I practice what I preach with my clients around setting yourself up, because inevitably stress is going to happen to all of us. And if we don't have certain systems set up in our lives, it could really derail us. And so we're not derailed. We were a little flustered, but I really am. I look at the bless and the mess, and it's a little messy right now, but we're doing it. We're sticking through it, but perfect week for me to be talking to you about this.
I love it, Carrie. And everyone, listen, we hope, Peter and Grace, they're on the mend. Obviously, they're warriors. They're healthy, so their immune system will counter COVID like the champions they are. And I just think, I think we've all, and everyone watching right now, whether you're watching it live or the replay, we've all had stress. I remember a year ago this time, we were quarantined, and we've talked about this a lot. But our goal today is to really help you kind of minimize and slay that X factor in your life, the stress. And we're going to do it with 2 ways. We're going to first teach you what stress is and how you can't get rid of stress completely, but how you respond to it, how you address it. What are some solutions? And the second thing is we're going to give you real solutions. Carrie's going to share 3. I'm going to share 3. So right now in this Facebook Live, in this training, in this podcast, you're going to walk away immediately with 6 realistic solutions that we know have worked with everyone we've worked with, whether in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, whatever their goal type. If you can minimize your stress, you're going to help your body win. And Carrie, I know this is part 5, so let me just share. And we both kind of have an anniversary here. We had an email blog went out today, and Body Confidence, you saw last week, it was all about celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And stress is a huge piece of this. It's one of our 6 components of health in our structure that we dive into it. But I also know that, Carrie, right here, if you've missed any of these episodes, it's on my Facebook profile, it's on my Facebook page. But it's also, Carrie's got a podcast, and her website is Disruptive Nutrition, and you can see that. But Carrie, you have a year anniversary right now. Is that correct?
I didn't even realize it, but the podcast has been going on for a year. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So make sure you subscribe to Carrie's podcast, dive into it. We've already talked, if you somehow have missed this series, we've talked about hormones, we've talked about food, we've talked about exercise. We've really set you up to really understand how to take your body to another level. If you want to watch the video, when we look at it, all you have to do is go right back to my profile page. You can watch the videos of Carrie and I. So you got the podcast, you have the videos, so you can dive into this and really understand how to optimize your body wherever you are. We started this series for menopause and andropause, but it's wherever you are for you to win. And just a little bit as we dive into stress today, and we're going to cover what stress is and how to have some realistic solutions for it. Right here on Disruptive Nutrition, Carrie's got a whole article on the 5 ways to stop stress eating. So make sure you dive into this on disruptivenutrition.com. It's right here under her articles. How do they find this, Carrie? Do they just go to your blog?
Yep. If you go to blog and in the search button, just hit stress and then
that'll
come up. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote this right at the beginning of the pandemic. And this is a big thing about what I teach my clients. I mean, we can teach people how to eat, right, Mark? It's not even that hard to teach people how to eat. And how many people say, I know what to do, I just don't do it, or I can't do it? Because our mindsets and our systems are not set up for success. And stress is one of the most debilitating pieces of the puzzle that keeps us from doing what we quote unquote know we should do. And so the strategies that I put out here are the things that I teach my clients all the time.
I love that, Carrie. And I think also, as you've written about that, if you're watching right now, and I love people jumping on, if you say, how do I learn more about stress? You read that article, and in Body Confidence, page 86, I talk about stress, your X factor. And also in this book, I share my 5 steps to managing your stress. I'm going to share a few of those with you today, but just make sure it's important that you don't ever look at this series as your only resource. There's articles, there's blog, there's podcasts. And the whole goal here is where you start right now with your health is to guide you 1% a day. So a year from now, you've cast that vision, you've taken your body to an elite level, and you're able to feel your best, live your best health, regardless of your circumstances. And whatever's thrown at you in life, you're able to slay it like the champion you are. So, Kara, are we ready?
Yeah. And you know what, Mark, I think it's just really important to think about that. This is number 5, right? It's all connected. And so when we think about the reason why we're doing 8 parts of this series is because we're talking about the things that all have to come together. And I'd love to just share with you really quickly this post that we just got in our membership group from one of our members. And she basically said she had, after reading about how to manage her menopausal symptoms, she's gone through our podcast that we've already done, sleeplessness, emotional swings, fatigue, weight gain. With nutrition, she came upon this lovely gem of peeps, us, our group. And so for the past 4 weeks, she has now been sleeping like a rock, actually falling asleep within 15 to 20 minutes of lying down. Her energy levels have gotten better, which helps her emotions stay at a steady level and keeps her husband alive. And it doesn't hurt that my menopausal middle is diminishing either. What I put in my body makes a huge difference to the way it performs. That just goes to show how all of this stuff is connected, but it doesn't take long to start to reverse this. That was just in a few weeks.
I love that, Karen. I think that's what that's what we're doing here. It's the nuggets. It's the weekly coaching that's going to help people be their best. So, standing ovation to your member. And just, if you're watching, that member's watching right now, thanks for sharing, because that's the difference here. It's all about each one of our stories, our success, our victories inspire someone else. And as we do that, this is truly how we forever change the health of the world. So standing ovation. Yeah. So now everyone on Facebook, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the replay, I want you to type down 1 to 5, 1 to 10, actually, 1 being the least amount of stressed and 10 being the highest stressed. I think part of it, as we go through this process, you kind of have to decide, do you feel like you're stressed? Then you're maybe an 8, 9, 10. Do you feel like stress doesn't really hurt you? Maybe you're a 1, 2, or 3. But part of this process is starting to understand what it is. And I remember a great statement about a duck. One of my first business partners would say that, I said, you're always calm. So I'm like a duck, calm on the surface, paddling for my life under the water. And that's exactly what stress does. It's not necessarily that you can see it. I mean, we all know when we can feel stress and see stress, but many times it's internal. And I'm going to walk you through just from a science perspective right now on where we are with it. So this is from our advanced training manual with our certification. And I shared this in our first video and podcast, Carrie. where we talked about your hormone reaction chains. So everyone, you have a hypothalamus, and your hypothalamus does a lot. Three great hormones. It creates hormones that create these hormone chains. So one, TRH, your pituitary, thyroid stimulating hormone to your thyroid. And your thyroid is your metabolism. So it's important to keep remembering. Your metabolism is controlled by your thyroid. This is why people slow metabolisms, they have to take thyroxine, and they have to wake up, they have to take that, they can't eat for an hour. But synthetic hormones or even natural hormones that you have to inject are never the same as your own body. So part of our series, part of what we're doing is to activate your hormone system. The other one is going to be GHRH, your pituitary, to growth hormone, to IGF-1. And this is all, when we look at this, this is actually helps you burn body fat. It helps you build muscle. It's your growth hormone chain. But the one that we're talking about today really focuses on CRH, pituitary, ACTH, and this stimulates your adrenal. Now, your adrenal gland then separates, and your cortex releases cortisol, and your medulla releases epinephrine and norepinephrine. So when we think about this, you think about cortisol is your body's stress hormone. It's your X factor. Epinephrine is that energy that your body's utilizing. And naturally with stress, and I'm going to kind of draw on this, naturally with stress, you're going to have moments of up and down, up and down. Now, what's important to realize is that cortisol suppresses testosterone. So the more stress you have, and men and women both have testosterone, the lower testosterone, men obviously have a lot more, but that suppression causes irregularity in your blood sugar, causes irregularity in how you can process nutrients, causes irregularity in your muscles, in how you digest food. So it's not that stress doesn't exist. You're always going to have some cortisol because your body needs it. You need this fight and flight. It's a survival mechanism.
For sure, yeah.
What Carrie and I are going to talk about with you today is something called chronic stress. So imagine this. If you just look at it as I draw, you get a stressful moment. You come up, something happens, you have a fearful, someone scares you, jumps out. Hunter does it all the time. He jumps out of the dark and scares us. And, and then immediately our stress goes up. But then we immediately recover. Imagine every day you're sitting in traffic, your blood sugar's unstable, you're hungry, you're tired. You get these little moments that your body is always having these little spikes. And because you're spiking so much, because stress is eating that side of you, but for whatever's happening, that underlying challenges, what ends up happening is you go chronic. Chronic stress means that your body is never coming back to normal. And when that happens and you have too much cortisol in your blood, you're chronic. That affects your blood sugar. It adds this body fat deposits in your stomach. It makes you not feel as good. It affects your sleep, and it directly affects your entire hormone chains. This is a huge issue for many people. With COVID, with quarantines, with all of the challenges, the financial stress that so many people have gone through over this past year. These are all underlying aspects that create chronic stress. What we want to help you with is first, you got to understand this. You have to understand how your body works and realize stress is okay, but I got to control it. I got to eliminate the X factor of it so that I know when I'm stressed and I know exactly what to do to bring it back down. Now, if that makes sense to everybody, hey, Kenya here, if that makes sense to everyone, type in 10 on, when we look at it, type in 10 on the Facebook Live. Now, Carrie, anything you want to share about this before we dive into the strategies?
Well, I want to go back to that concept that all of this is related, right? So if we aren't controlling our blood sugar with our food, if we aren't sleeping well, now there's direct correlation, right, between sleep and stress, but lack of sleep is going to increase our stress. And so all of these pieces of the puzzle are connected. And we talked about exercise before, but that can be a real stress reliever. So it's like, there's no one entry point to all of this. Having better sleep is going to help with our stress. Having lower stress will help with our sleep. Exercising is going to help with our sleep and our stress. Blood sugar stabilization is the key of all of this. So the strategies that we're going to talk about will be kind of focused on stress, but I also want people to realize all the things that we've been covering also helps with stress, right? Because once we can get the full package in there, then we're going to be able to keep moving. It really isn't about, I have to control my stress and I have to figure out sleep and I have to figure out exercise. it all connects together. And when you can do these things, that's why we started with nutrition. We went to exercise, we went to sleep, because all of those things, if you can take care of those, will help with the stress.
I love that. And that's a lot of times, like when we talk about it, I'm still on my body confidence, our anniversary,
10
Carrie, all of us
years.
together.
Yeah.
But I think what you just said resonates with me. And that's why we talk about the 3-step system. And this is what this series is about. You first have to understand the reason why your health matters. Yeah. You then move into the menopause and your metabolism. Yeah. All of these, it's a domino effect, like Carrie said, your sleep, your food, your water, your stress, your exercise, your supplementation to fill your gaps. But then once you get that, you then have to figure out how to make it part of your life so that your health, your profession, your lifestyle, your relationships all flow together. And I think one more thing, just building off that, we always talk about you are what you metabolize. Well, your digestive system, if we just look here, your digestive system, everything from a stress perspective, remember, there's 2 types of digestion. There's muscular and your teeth, so mechanical digestion, and then chemical digestion. When you stress, and I always talk, and Carrie, we talk about this as the X factor. When you stress, nothing works the way it should. Everything works less effectively, less efficiently. When you're sleep deprived, your stress is higher. Yep. So part of this series is every week, build up the strategies we learn, balance your blood sugar, get your sleep strategies in. But today, we want to give you that even when you're doing those things right, there's little X factor things that can derail you. And our goal today is to share 6 strategies with you to help get you back on track so that you can slay the stress factor.
Yeah, I think what you just said really is like a big piece of this. I just talked to somebody yesterday and she was on the phone and she was crying because she's just so frustrated with her body and her health. And the stress level is so high because of it. So for her, it's not like these 6 strategies I'm going to talk about, I even think are her first go-to. Her first go-to is to get her nutrition on point, right? To get all of those things, because that's going to help enormously. So we always want to meet you where you are. And I don't want people to think I'm stressed, so I have to just start here. I really believe it all starts with food. It starts with what you put in your body. And so when I was talking to her, it wasn't like I was giving her these strategies that we're going to talk about. My first thing is, let's get your health on order. Let's get you to your optimal health so that you can get to your optimal weight. But then we can deal with the stress factors that linger after you've done all those other things. Because like you said, stress impacts all those pieces of the body. And so we got to figure out that on stuff first.
I love that. So, and Gary, that's the insight you give, and just with the clients you've worked with is so inspiring. And I think when we talked about before we started the show today, and we understand a death of a loved one, something horribly happening, a lost job, things like that. There's certain stressors that are just, it is what it is. You have to address it. It's going to hurt you for a moment, and then you can move on. We get that. We're not talking about that. The stress Carrie and I are talking about today is just like today. We've soundproofed this studio, podcast and that, but I'll tell you, Hope's story with special needs. She is the loudest 6-year-old or 5-year-old. She's almost 6 in the world. And I could, even when I hear her scream, she could be outside in our deep yard and I can hear her. And it's like, can everyone hear that? These are little stressors that you just have to say, it doesn't matter. So that's what we want to help you with when you're sitting in traffic. When things that are hitting you that you can decide your reaction to, and let me share this. When you're rested, when your blood sugar is balanced, you are empowered to make the choices to help minimize your stress. So Carrie, let's talk about what are your 3 strategies that everyone can take on today?
I'm excited about this. I will say my friend Kara, who's also one of my clients, said, oh my gosh, now that I live this lifestyle, I'm no longer the cranky mom that I had always been before, right? And so I think that those things, I always say you can't control your circumstances, but you can control your response to your circumstances. So I can't control that half of my family got COVID. I can't control that my kids are all in their rooms. My husband's relegated to the basement. I can't control that, but I can control my response to that. And so I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that I'm doing right now, the things that I have set up for myself, thank God, because I'm dealing with this situation in a way that's allowing me to still be functioning and still be as successful as I can be. So the first thing that I think is really important is I have morning time every single morning. I train my clients to do this. In fact, I build it into my program. So for the first 4 weeks of our program, they are in our learning portal every day for 15 to 20 minutes to learn the concepts that I teach, right? But I have the secret reason why I do that. It's because I have them in that portal for 15 to 20 minutes a day, not just so that they can learn in bite-sized chunks, not so they can just do 1% every day, so that they can get into the habit of being there for themselves for 15 to 20 minutes, taking time to just sit, be introspective, reflect, intentional. What is my day coming in front of me going to look like? When am I going to work out? When am I going to cook dinner? When am I going to shower? When am I going to do these things? Every single morning, I wake up a little bit earlier so that I can do that intentional planning, so that in front of me is a plan. I always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so we have to recognize that stress is going to happen. We have to recognize that chaos is going to ensue. So if we can set ourselves up proactively, one thing will always be true. When I can sit down for 15 minutes, regardless of the hurricane going around me, and I can breathe, and everybody's got their own thing, if you pray or meditate or whatever it is, but then I write down right in my planner what it is I plan on doing, how I'm going to slay the day. And sometimes I'll put one thing on my list of things to do, because it's that crazy of a time, but I plan the time I'm going to do it. So not only am I knowing what I'm going to do, but I know when I'm going to do those things, and I build margin in my day. So I have cushion. So when stuff happens, I can deal with it. Because if I try to jam pack too many things, if I have a list that's 100 things long and all I'm trying to do is cross it off, when life gets chaotic, when you get a positive COVID test, you're going to feel out of control. So my first thing is to have time in the morning. And I use morning in quotes. I do it in the morning. You can do it in the evening, in the middle of the day, whenever works for your schedule. 15, 20 minutes of intentional time where you're planning out how you're going to slay. That's been huge. So that has grounded me in this week, right? I wasn't prepared to even be home right now. I'm supposed to be in Florida, for goodness sakes. The other thing, that's my first strategy.
I love that, by the way, Carrie. And it reminds me of when I was keynoting an event at Idea World, and Brendan Burchard was speaking, and we talked about, and he mentioned that he doesn't do anything until 12 every day. He said that the biggest shift for him was that he didn't look at his phone. He didn't do text. He didn't do social media till 12 p.m. and on, so that his morning, he controlled the outcome. And he said, you know, what's really going to go, like, what can't you address after 12? So for him, that solution allowed him to take on the day and control the narrative rather than being reactive to the narrative.
100%. And I build that into my program with my clients so that they can practice it. They don't even always know why. Spoiler alert to any of my clients. They don't even always know why they're doing it, but that is part of the reason. The other thing is that we have systems set up in my house. So like we're going to talk about supplements, right? And vitamins and all the things that we have, but especially right now that is super important for my family. So every single morning I have 4 little jars. We have all the vitamins out, and I'm just getting them all together. I go up into each room and I'm handing out the vitamins, but that's in my plan and I have a system for it. I also will tell you that, like, I'll share with you this picture. This is this morning. Bam, Whole Foods delivery. I made sure last night I just got my grocery order together and I made sure I had the food that I needed to have so that I could stay fueled with my family. You can see there's baby bok choy over there and spinach and cottage cheese, but filled with, you know, healthy whole foods. But the system was really easy. This is our second order with Whole Foods, but we have a grocery list. We know what we're going to do, and we do it. And so we're planned for that. I have the systems that we have, like in terms of our laundry, in our emails, and all of that. One of the things that I do with my clients is I make them go through all the things that often put you at the bottom of the list. What are the things that you always, like, you have to do laundry, you have to pay bills, you have to get your kids to school, whatever it is, those things you have to do regardless. But then the things for us, we often do last. So when we can think about systems for all these things, so when life gets crazy, we just know where to look. We know where our keys are. We know kind of what laundry day is going to be and when we're going to put it away and all of that kind of stuff. Systems in our life will make all the other stuff so much easier to deal with. We haven't changed that much with this chaos because we have systems in our life. And so systems matter.
I love that. And I think part of what you did with Whole Foods, I think one of the best things that transpired over this past year is that every grocery store, like Amazon Prime now, Whole Foods delivers. Everything
Right.
delivers. And like you said, you create your food system, you create your meal system. And it takes a little thought initially, but when you wake up and you have a rhythm, that's the best thing for people. And that helps alleviate so much stress of the frantic chaos scrambling.
There's no like, what are we going to do for dinner? What are we going to do for food? Sunday nights, we plan out our food. That's why we have our recipe subscription, because I'm like, you guys don't even have to think about it. It's PFC and it's healthy, and just go with what sounds good. But we write down, what are we going to eat during the week? We have a grocery list that goes with it. And then we shop, and it's a system. Typically my husband does the shopping, but he's in quarantine. So then Whole Foods delivery is going to be the answer. And so those kinds of things have to happen. Consistency over time. That's all that matters. And if you can build up those consistent systems, you are going to succeed a little bit at a time. And then the last strategy I have is a psychological one. It's one that I have trained people in all the time. So chaos and messiness lives on the right side of our brain. That's the creative part of us, the artist in us. My daughter is an artist, a musician. She lives on the right side of her brain. And it's messy. We also have confirmation bias on the right side of our brain. Whatever we tell ourselves internally, we believe. And it sits on the right side of the brain. I'm not good enough. I'm super stressed. I can't do this. We believe it because that's what the right side of our brain confirms, all of those thoughts. But when we say stuff out loud, when we write it down, when we name it, it actually moves to the left side of our brain. It's like a bridge. The left side of our brain is a problem solver. It's a little bit more of type A. It actually is solution oriented. When it lives inside the right side, very hard to come up with solutions. When you put it on the left side of your brain, you can start to problem solve. So that's why therapy is so good, and counseling and coaching is so powerful. You have to say it in order to start to slay it. So when I talk about it with my husband, right now we are doing morning coffee time. He's on one side of the patio, I'm on the other. And we sit and we're talking about our day. We're talking about our stressors in the morning. We even have with the girls right now, again, another system in place. Let me show you this picture real quick. We got walkie-talkies. Everybody's got a walkie-talkie and we're talking about it. How are you guys feeling? What are you doing? But talking about it moves it to the left side of your brain when you can name it. Even in stress eating, you can even say out loud, I am walking to the pantry and I'm grabbing chips because I am stressed. Just saying that does some amazing things for your body and for your brain. And you can find yourself actually saying, nope, I'm not going to do that. So getting stuff from the right side to your left side by saying it out loud or writing it down is a huge strategy that's super simple.
Yeah, I mean, that just helped me. And I want everyone, Carrie's 3 strategies are epic. Number 1, get your morning time. I'm looking at my Facebook. If you see me look down, because we do this Zoom as well, I'm looking at the Facebook Live going right now. Number 2 is creating your systems. And number 3 is say stuff out loud. I love it. Say it to start slaying it. Mm-hmm. So the key is this, everyone, Marianne who just jumped on, I want to make sure if you can do these 3 things, start focusing this week, starting today on these 3 things. So if you can do that, I want you to type in yes. I'm going to type in it right now. And if you're at home by yourself, say yes. As Carrie just said, it will make it go from your right to your left side. Yeah. Now, my 3 things, I'm going to do some rapid fire here. And the first thing for me, so we got our 3, I'm going to do 3 more, is make yourself a priority. So I think one of the biggest things that causes stress is that we put everyone else before ourselves. And I want you to say this to yourself. I want you to write it down. Being selfish is a good thing. I've worked with thousands to millions of people around the world, and working with about 75% of our clients are women. And I'll say, I see it with my wife, Abby. Carrie can probably attest to this, that women give so much. And especially when you have kids, and it's easy to put other people ahead of you. And I'm going to just invite everyone, men and women particularly, it's okay to be selfish. Because what I will guarantee is this, that when you make your health a priority, when you implement some of these strategies, when you say, I can have my time, you will be better at everything else you want to be. I've known that for myself. And I know that, Carrie, have you seen that with your clients, that just being a little selfish, making you a priority, makes them a better overall person and lower stress?
There's a saying, if the mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? But the value of women is huge. Do you know what it says behind my desk there? I don't know if you can read that. It says, know your value. And I say that because every woman I talk to doesn't think they're worth the time or the investment in figuring out their health, but yet they're that cog in the wheel for the rest of their family. Right? When mama does the things, so does the rest of the family. And so I love that advice because that is exactly right. We think we're serving others when we don't serve ourselves, but in all reality, we can't serve others when we don't serve ourselves.
Love it. Yeah. And that's so, I love that. Know your value. Now, the fifth thing that I'm going to say, our fifth strategy is, and it kind of builds off what Carrie said about, I love it, say it to start slaying it, is writing down your thoughts. So many of my clients, they feel they wake up in the middle of the night and their mind is racing because they're not addressing that. So a lot of times you can say it, but you can also write it. And getting that out, getting it in, many times people, I don't want to journal, Mark. I don't want to write down my thoughts. But getting it out shifts it, as Carrie just said, the science of it from the right to the left brain. So it becomes something tangible. It is out of you. So writing down your thoughts an hour before bed will optimize your sleep, minimize your stress. You'll wake up more fresh.
This is my notebook. I keep right by my bed.
Love it.
Just so that I can have it and then like it gets it out and then I can sleep. Yeah.
And so make sure you write it down. If you feel like that's me, Mark, start writing it down. Yeah. And the last thing is something that is specific to me. I put it in body confidence. And I just want to say when something, I'm very driven. So I wouldn't label myself OCD, but other people could say that. And I read a book back in my 20s called Brain Lock. And the point was that your brain, that if something was here, I would fixate on it. Now I've been able, because Hunter has the same drivenness, Hope does to a degree. And we had to switch that where that obsession is or where that focus is. But for me with stress, that's something we do there. But for me with stress, when I feel something is unknown, it can cause me to live in that stressful moment. And I just keep going in circles and I keep repeating. What I had to learn was a solution for me was going immediately to what is the worst case scenario. Once I go to the worst case scenario and I can live with that, the stress is gone for me. Whatever it is. And to me, this is what I've learned through the years. Abby, Hunter, and Hope, anything happens to them, that's my worst case scenario that I don't have a solution for. That's me being as direct as possible. I don't know what I do if that happens. Everything else in life, I'm okay with. We can lose everything, we're okay. Finances don't define us. Nothing will define us, because where we are as people is I know that as long as I got them, I'm okay. As long as I'm doing what's best for my integrity and values, I'm okay. So one of the best lessons that I can share, and it may work for you, it may not, it depends on your brain, but for me, understanding the worst case, saying that I can live with that, it immediately eliminates my stress. Carrie, what about for you?
No, that was exactly what we did with Grace. Grace is in the musical in school, and it is a top high school in the state for theater. She got in. It was amazing. She was so excited. And now she was afraid she's going to shut down production, right? For 2 weeks. They already had to postpone it because of COVID. And we went through that exact thing. She was spiraling. She was really stressed. She gets very, very stressed out. And we said, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if you test positive? And we went through it all. She woke up, we got the test results, and she realized, okay, this is going to be okay. Right? Because she got to the very, very worst case scenario. And it turns out they shut down for 3 days. That was all they had to do. And she realized, okay, that's not even as bad as what I thought it could be. And she ended up being okay with what was the worst case scenario. And the end result ended up being even less than that. So she dealt with it. And that was such a perfect example of that advice, because if a 16-year-old can do it, the rest of you guys can too.
I love that. So Carrie, we are slaying our stress, everyone. We love that you're in this series with us. Now, before we wrap with some inspiration, you got your 6 things to take on. You understand why stress is, what it can do to your body. So just like you've built with your food, your exercise, you've built with your sleep, now it's about slaying stress. Now, next week, we're going to cover something that you probably don't even think is that important, but we're going to show you that about 90% of your body, about 80 to 90% is water. So we're going to dive into the water unknown next week, and we're going to empower you to understand why you need it, what it does to you, and how it will help you balance your hormones and optimize your body and improve the number one system in your body, your circulatory system, to flow everything and optimize nutrient absorption. So Carrie, before we get ready for our water next week, what do we want to talk? Why do we want to wrap with some inspiration?
Well, I just think that, and I think we can go back in life and think about all the things that kind of define us or gave us a moment of clarity or made us better, came about because of a storm, right? Something happened. When we live life just comfortable and we live life like happy and blissful, not only is it kind of boring, but there's no growth in that. We have to lift heavy weights to get stronger. And so in the midst of this happening in my life right now, in the midst of stress, all I can do to really kind of get through it in some ways is to think about where that blessing is going to come from. And I talk about the blessing, the mess, because it's true. And so I look at this week that some people could just take and get completely out of control with, and I'm just truly trying to look at the blessings that are coming out of it. And in every single situation, there is that. And so I just encourage you, regardless of how stressful things are right now for you, there is learning in it, there's growth in there, and then there's some sort of a purpose that you're going to be able to use in another season of your life.
Oh, I love that, Carrie. And I just love everything you teach me more. I know we talked about this offline before, how I teach you, but I tell you, I learn so much from you every time you talk. And I love the science that you bring and the mindset coaching as well. So it's been an honor to do the series. I know we got 3 more parts and we're going to crush some water next week. Yeah. Now, everyone, look, I just want to share as I wrap up, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to go to, let me go to the picture right here. This picture here is something that was extremely special. I shared it. It's my first book that I signed in Santa Monica the day before we officially launched Body Confidence at a Santa Monica Barnes & Noble. And Hunter, there was a poster, and Hunter wanted to sign with me. It wasn't staged. It was just my boy wanted to be part of it. You know, he's 16 now. He's taking on the world, and he's my best friend. Abby's my best friend. Hope's my best friend. We live our life together. And I'm sharing this with you because I think a lot of times in stress, it's because of the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of what is going to work or isn't going to work. And it builds inside us, and we don't feel we're good enough or we're strong enough. I just want to share with you, when I look at this picture, when I think about every day, my wife, Abby, has taught me to live unattached to the outcome. We will fiercely take on life. Sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, but regardless, we do it together. And that would be my invitation to everybody. Keep remembering that stress will not define you. It's a part of life. It's a part of your system. But you, in the end of the day, you control how you react to it. You control your decisions. And when you take that and you live unattached to the outcome and you live on fearlessly and you just have adventures, things will change for you. The vision will grow stronger and you'll feel your best. You'll live your greatest health, but you also will live your greatest life. Carrie Lipoli,
amen.
I love you. Happy podcast anniversary.
Happy book anniversary.
And everybody, thank you for being part of the movement. Thank you for listening. And thank you for drawing your line in the sand and saying that you are a priority and your health matters, because your actions inspire everyone that you touch. We will see you next week. Time to get your water on. So bring your game. Bye, everybody.